evidence, and we have a passage from Tyrone. I am just going to read this to you quickly. And then while I'm reading this, I want you to think about where's the evidence in here that shows that Tyrone is changing. Okay, so the brother's right. I look around this class and nobody I see fits into the box I used to put them in, starting with Mr. Ward. I figured him for a lightweight do-gooder who would last about 5 minutes in this neighborhood, but he's stuck and he got this poetry thing going. He even reads his own stuff sometimes. He's okay. Devin's okay too. I don't know how bright the other jocks are, but they're nothing dumb about this brother. Mr. Ward says you have to take people one at a time. Check out what's in their head and heart before you judge. Word. Okay, so now on the left-hand side of the screen, you should see some opportunities to do some work. What I want you to do is to click on a sticky note. And I want you to write like a quote that you see where it shows that Tyrone is changing as a person. Okay, so that's what your task is right now. Do you have questions? I'll take that as a no.
We aren't allowed to put like sticky notes on the Jamboard. It says view only.
Well, that stinks. Thank you. I think that was Kate, right? Or was that Amelia?
That was me, Kate.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to change this permissions. Maybe like refresh your screen and then see if it makes a difference. So can somebody see now if you can use the sticky notes? Yay, great, you can use them. Thank you. Okay, guys, so just to repeat the instructions, take a sticky note and then write in the sticky note a piece of evidence that you find in this passage that shows that Tyrone is changing as a person. Yeah, use a sticky note. These are sticky notes. The pen thing doesn't last long enough to use. Actually, it does. But somebody wants to be using something else. Use a sticky note. Click on a sticky note. Type on the sticky note.
I was trying out the laser.
Oh, well, try out the sticky notes first.
Okay.
It won't let me use the sticky notes.
Did you refresh your screen?
No.
Try that.
Okay.
Who's messing around with my square rectangle? So we are trying to prove with the evidence how Tyrone, something that shows that he's changed as a person. That he is changing from somebody who was extremely critical of everybody. He judged everybody. Who's ever messing with it? Knock it off. Give me a sticky note, guys. Yes, I believe that's Caleb. I look around this class and I see that nobody fits in the box I used to put them in. Caleb, you just won the Gold Star Award for giving us that sticky note. There's another thing in here that shows he's changed too. Who is going to... Oh, now he just... Nobody fits in the box. Somebody else has got, now he just focuses on himself with music and stuff. Okay, when we're talking about evidence, thank you for helping me out with this. When we're talking about evidence, we really want to have like the textual evidence. I want you to grab the words and put them on. I know you can't copy and paste. You actually have to type in the words. Oh yeah, he doesn't think of Devin as a bad person like the other jocks. Who said that one? Well, there's one more piece in there too that shows he's changed his thinking. One more piece, guys. Who's going to get it? Zach, you're going to get it? So that's about, who is this? Who's the frog guy? The frog dude. But it was wrong. Zach, it wasn't wrong. I just want the textual evidence, like type it in. We've got, he doesn't think of Devin as a bad person like the other jocks. Yep, that's not an exact, that's a paraphrase, not actual textual evidence, but yes, there we go. You have to take people one at a time, check out what's in their head and heart before you judge. Woo woo! Good job, guys. You've got the evidence. You have bad memory. Is this another Zach? Yep. Anyway, this is perfect. So now you're looking at, you're finding evidence. That is what this lesson, the last lesson, probably the one before that, and the one we're doing today is all about. All right, you guys, you rock. Thank you so much. We're going to pop on back to, the lesson for today, if I can find it. And here it is. Thank you. That worked out well. So today we're going to continue reading, and we're going to start with page 87, Sterling S. Hughes. And just so you know, whatever we don't get through today while we're listening to this, you're going to have to read through page 107. You should maybe write that down on a piece of paper and tuck that right in your book so that you don't forget what you're reading through. And perhaps Tuesday, we might just have a little quiz on the reading for this week to see how you're doing with your reading the book. So you're going to really want to make sure that you read page 87 to 107 for Monday. Okay? All right, so let's get started with Sterling S. Hughes. I'll play the recording and you guys follow along. All right, after I find the recording, here we go. Sterling S. Hughes.
Caleb didn't hear you say how far we're reading.
Thank you for watching the chat for me. To page 107.
Okay.
Thank you, Zach.
Sterling S. Hughes.
No problem.
Devin shook his head when he saw me standing in the lunch line yesterday, fingering an imaginary fret, making the appropriate sound effects. Friend or not, he thinks I'm crazy. But the brother behind me got into it, snapping his fingers to the rhythm I set. Yeah, he said, preacher got it going on. My name is Sterling Sampson, but everyone calls me Preacher. I intend to become a science teacher, not a preacher, but I don't mind being called one. Just so long as you don't call me Samson. I'm hoping to end up in a little better shape than he did. I turned to the brother behind me and eased into a smile. I play a real guitar at church every Sunday. You ought to come by and check me out sometime. Judging by the way the brother cut his eyes at me, his appearance on the steps of First Baptist Church seemed highly unlikely. Still, you never know. I went back to my invisible string playing to keep my fingers limber for later. I had promised to hold the bass line for some of the brothers' reading at this week's open mic. Mr. Ward was kind enough to lock my guitar up in his office in the morning so I wouldn't have to worry about it walking away before then. Assuming I made it to his class without any trouble. A brother named Leon accidentally bumped into me as I approached the cashier. He spilled, or should I say poured, a cup full of honey on my shoes, my new shoes. Oops, looks like Mr. Goody Two-Shoes got a mess to clean up, he said, laughing. His buddies joined in. I stared down at my shoes, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the time I reached 10, I realized counting was not going to suffice. I need you, Lord. Hold back the Samson in me. I may not have his strength, but you know I have his temper. I counted backward from 10, felt my breath slowly evening out. A still small voice reminded me to return good for evil. Reminded me that my plans for the future do not include fisticuffs or expulsion. I am college bound and nothing is going to keep me from it. Besides, these poor fools are only trying to get a rise out of me. They're only trying to prove that the peace of God is non-existent. But how can they? I looked up at Leon and shook my head. Then I grabbed him by the shoulders, kissed him loudly on both cheeks, and gave him a bear hug. "Get off me, man," he said, trying to pull away. When I finally let him go, I whispered, "Leon, I forgive you." Fear blotted out the pupils in his eyes. "Man," he yelled, "you some kind of freak." I smiled, strummed my imaginary guitar, and sang, "I'll be a fool for Christ, not just once, but twice." Leon and his friends backed away as if I'd set a match to them. They put as much distance between us as possible. "You sick, man," Leon called over his shoulder. "Stay away from me." It's always something with these guys. Either they're trying to draw me into an infantile game of the dozens so we can trade insults left and right, or they're slapping porno pictures inside my locker, hoping to set me off. If they had some direction in their lives, like Raoul, Devin, or Reynard, they wouldn't have time to worry about me one way or the other. Which is precisely why I want to teach, to give young brothers like Leon some direction. Even Wesley has direction, although the brother could clean up his language. Sometimes he sounds like a thug in training. Leon's not much better. If only Leon and his friends knew how lame their antics are. As if any of that could stop me from believing in God. All my life, I've seen my mother pray. And all my life, I've seen her prayers answered. There was the time my baby brother was dying of pneumonia and the doctors had given up. But she prayed until the fever broke. There was the time she was laid off from her job and the refrigerator was empty. And she bowed her head over an empty pot and prayed for God to fill it. That night, a woman upstairs begged her to accept a bag of frozen meats and vegetables because she was moving the next day, and she hated to see good food go to waste. We had steaks that night, and we never have steaks. There were lots of times like that. "See there," Mom would say, "that's God's hand. If you have God's hand on your life, everything will be all right." So of course I believe. And I believe big. I'm believing God's going to get me and my 3 brothers into manhood, into college, and off of these streets with no more than maybe a couple of black eyes between us. How's that for believing? The change bell rang and I was still cleaning off my shoes. I could have used a few extra minutes to work on my own poem. It took me a while to get into this whole poetry thing, not that I don't like it. I read God's Trombones by James Weldon Johnson, and some of the work by County Cullen, like Simon the Cyrenian speaks, and I like what the brothers had to say, but their styles don't suit me. Then Mr. Ward turned me on to Reverend Pedro Pietri, who is more my speed, even if he is kind of old. He knows how to put God and the street in the same sentence. And I figured if I'm going to write poetry at all, that's what I want to do. So I put together a few. I couldn't tell if they were any good, but I decided to read one anyway. If I get a laugh, it won't be the first time. The bell rang one last time. I took a few bites of my sandwich, wrapped up the rest, and tossed it in my bookcase for later. I told my growling stomach to be quiet and headed to Mr. Ward's office for my guitar. Open Mic, D-Train, by Sterling S. Hughes. He squeezed through the subway doors, a young gun, thirsty for the kind of coke you can't sip through a straw. He sized up the passengers, chose his prey. A wrinkled woman at the tail end of her Geritol years who fears her own shadow, with good reason. He lunged at her, demanded her cash to replenish his stash of powdered death. No one blinked or came to her aid, at first. Then in he beamed. Light streamed from his fingers, singed anyone caught without a robe of righteousness across his back. The lack of goodness in the young gun's heart was oxygen to the fire, and so he burned a good long while before I woke. The dream stoked my faith in the judgment and justice that will come someday, or this afternoon, soon. I turn up the collar of my white robe, relieved to know God's got me covered, 'cause I'm good, but not that good.
So that is Sterling S. Hughes. What I'd like you to do right now is in the chat, I want you to put something in there. What can we infer about Sterling S. Hughes? We just listened to him. What can we infer about his character? So I'll give you an example. This one is really not really an inference. It's just kind of obvious. I can infer that Sterling is strongly believes in God and faith. What else can you infer about Sterling?
He strongly believes in God.
Oh, thank you, Clayton, for repeating what I just said. What else can we infer? Caleb, thank you. Caleb says in the chat, I can infer that Sterling S. Hughes is very forgiving due to his faith. Yep, Kate, that he does not want to fight. Yep, exactly. Excellent inferences. Anybody else? Joseph, he is confident that God will help him and his brothers off the street. Excellent inferences, guys. Very good. So how is an inference different than the textual evidence? Put that in the chat. Think about that. How is an inference different than actual textual evidence? Think about that. Who's going to save the class and put the answer in the chat? How is an inference different than actual textual evidence, meaning an actual quote from the text? How is that? What's the difference? Because there is a big difference. Think about what it means to infer.
Your own opinion.
is what?
It's like so. It's like evidence,
Which
but like not evidence.
So,
It makes sense, but it doesn't.
yep, but I'm going to ask you some questions, Clayton. I think you're on the right track. So when you said it's your own opinion, is that an inference?
Like you're like stating like what's happening, but there's no textual evidence.
Right. You're making a guess or a prediction. That is totally imperfect. So then what's the difference between that then and textual evidence? An actual quote. An incorrect answer. Or Clayton can.
I think somebody else should answer. I can't figure it out.
So I'm looking, Caleb, and it says, Caleb says it has more room to move because it isn't confined by the things in the text that won't change. Yep, that's kind of a higher level way to say that. It has more room to move. It's a prediction or a guess, but then what's the difference? So you've got that. So what is textual evidence? Maybe that's where I'm not being clear with you guys. What is textual evidence? When I say that, find textual evidence, what am I asking you to do?
Evidence straight from the text. So it's like quotes.
Perfect. Clayton, you now get the award for superstar student.
Nice.
Yep. Who else was? And Caleb, yep, I love that you're giving credit. Good job, Clayton, it says in the chat. Somebody else got the superstar award today, too. I can't remember who it was. I need to write these things down. I think I just had an idea. Instead of keeping track of who is here and all the rest of that stuff for the participation and getting the gift card to McDonald's, I think we're going to do superstar awards. And those are the people's names who are going to go into the drawing. Okay. Who was the other person I said won the superstar award today? Can't remember.
Clayton and Caleb, I think.
All right, I think you're right. So we have the double C's here. Clayton and Caleb, Superstar Award. You guys are names are going in for the drawing. All right, let's get back to this. We have not much time left. And so what I am going to do is move on with the lesson. Remember, you're going to need to read through page 107. And if you really like the way it works out with listening to the story, as well as then looking at the text on the screen, I'm going to show you one more time where that's located on Classroom so that you can access that and, you can follow along. You could even do this on your phone then. So let me pop on back to, let me just go to Classroom right away and show you where that's located. So right here in Bronx Resources, the very top, it says Bronx Masquerade Audio and Text. You open that up and then you can see that each one of the characters is highlighted in blue. There's still a few left to be done, but there are enough here that's going to get you all the way through to 107. Okay, so make sure that you're now starting with what Tyrone has to say. Tyrone has to say about Sterling, which is on page 94. That's the page you're starting with, and you're reading through 107 for your homework, all right, for next Tuesday's class. So now I'm going to go back over here to our presentation. Just as a reminder, the learning target is I can find strong evidence that supports my claim. See the word strong there? We're going to move into finding strong evidence, this time in a passage. Remember, the process for finding evidence is first you need to start with something to show or prove, a claim or an inference. Then you look for places in the text that show or support whatever it is you're trying to show or support. We practiced that with Tyrone at the very beginning when we used Jamboard. And now, these are the strategies. Use your reasoning. Look for actions, narrations, or dialogue, and think about what the text needs to show in order to support what you're looking for. And remember the 3 gates. Is the piece of text enough? is everything in this text related to your argument? Is there anything in the surrounding text that could better support my argument? Those are the 3 gates. So now I'm going to model an example of what this looks like, and this will be what you are going to be doing with for the finding evidence practice number 2. You see now that there's a short excerpt or a passage. The last time you practiced, you were given four options. This time you have a whole passage to look for. What we're looking for, I'm looking at the claim. Here's what we're looking for. Tanisha believed cutting her hair was her only hope to get people to like her. So we've got to keep that in our mind as we read through this. And then remember, we're looking for the best evidence that goes through all 3 gates. So here we go. She's why I chopped all my hair off last year. Well, people like her. My mother freaked when she saw me. My bangs were cut straight across my brow and the sides were sort of squared at the neck. I looked like a clown minus the red nose. It was the best I could do on my own, and it looked better than that time I washed it in detergent to kink it up so I could have an afro like my cousins. Anyway, Mom hated it so much she finally forked over money for a visit to the hair salon to have it cut professionally. Served her right. I'd begged her to let me cut it off before. But your hair is so beautiful, she'd say. Why would you want to cut it? My mind flashed to the school cafeteria that afternoon. I'd walked past a group of would-be girlfriends who sucked their teeth at me and said my name like it was curdled milk they couldn't wait to spit out. Here comes Miss Hyella thinking she's all that with her so-called good hair, said one. Far as I'm concerned, she ain't nothing, said another. That less than nothing, said a third. I shook of the memory, sorry. Look, Mom, I said, you don't understand, but she wasn't listening. Most girls you know would kill to have your hair, she said. That's just it, Mom. They hate me for it, and they hate my skin. I can't do anything about my skin, okay? But my hair, I can fix. I lost the argument, of course. Then 3 weeks later, I cut it anyway. So now when I look at the claim or the inference, it says Tanisha believed cutting her hair was her only hope to get people to like her. And as I read through this passage, I kept that in mind since I already had the inference. And I found a piece of evidence that I think works. I think it's up here where it talks about right up here where it says, my mother freaked when she saw me. My bangs were cut straight across the brow. So this is, if I were to pick this piece of evidence as the best, let me see if it goes through the 3 gates. Is it enough? My mother freaked when she saw me. My bangs were cut straight across my brow and the sides were sort of squared at the neck. So that's after she cut it off, and that fits the first part of the claim. Does it fit the next part where it talks about her only hope to get people to like her? No, because she's really down on herself because she says, I looked like a clown minus the red nose. It was the best I could do on my own. So that only answers the first part of the claim. I want to make sure that my entire claim is answered. So that piece of evidence doesn't work. The other piece that I found that I thought might work is this last quotation. That's just it, Mom. They hate me for it and they hate my skin. I can't do anything about my skin. Okay, but my hair I can fix. I lost the argument, of course. Then 3 weeks later, I cut it anyway. So does that go through the 3 gates? Is it enough? Does it cover both? They hate me for it. Okay, that really talks about her believing that cutting her hair was her only hope to get people to like her. And then she goes on to talk about how she can't do anything with her skin, but she can fix her hair. So she really believes that in that statement that she that's the only way she can get people to like her, and she has control over that. So I think this is a really good piece of evidence. But I'm wondering about this part at the very end. Do I really need to have this? I lost the argument, of course. Then 3 weeks later, I cut it anyway. I don't know if I need that part, because while it's kind of an extra piece of detail, we don't really need to know that she lost the argument with her mom and that she cut it anyway. What we do need to know is that cutting her hair was the only hope to get people to like her. So she's got that. That's the part there where she says that she can't do anything about her skin, but she can do something with her hair. So I'm going to take just this part right here, and I'm going to copy this, and I am going to put this down in the selected evidence. And now I need to explain why it's the best. So I'm thinking about the 3 gates. This piece of evidence is enough as it answers, supports the claim, because she says she can't change her skin color, but she can change her hair. So there's enough there. It supports both pieces. Then, is it relevant? It's relevant because it's relevant because it supports the claim. And then there's one more gate, but I see that we are just about out of time, so I'm going to leave that here. You see what I've done, and that's what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to pop on back over to Classroom, and I'm going to show you where this is located so that you know where you can go to find this. So week of November 30th through December 4th. Here's the learning presentation, again, if you need to go through that. And then there's also, this is your assignment. And you're going to take a look at this. The directions are here. I've also given you a short video that walks through this assignment. Notice the success criteria, the same rubric. And then here is the excerpt you're going to be reading about Sterling. We just went through him. Here's the claim. And then you're going to find the best evidence to put in here. Remember, it goes through all 3 gates, and then explain why it's the best. And I've put the 3 gates and the strategies on this document. I'm going to pop back over here. How are we doing? We're 2 minutes over class, and I need to let you go so you can have a break before you go to your next class. What questions do you have for me? Any questions? None. Okay. Zach, I hope you enjoyed your breakfast today. Thanks for sharing with Kate. Clayton, thanks for sharing with Kate.
No problem.
And Caleb and Clayton, you guys go down as the superstar students today, and your names are going to be in for the drawing, which we'll do before Christmas, and that'll give other people a chance to be superstar students and get their names in the drawing too. So you guys have a great weekend. Let me know if you have any questions, and be safe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Max, do you have a question? Are you still there, Max? I don't think you are.
Yeah, I'm here.